Welcome back. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about language learning, but I'm going to cover what you will need to do if you're going to be using media, which I absolutely recommend to improve your fluency. So these are some practical tips. A lot of people already employ parts of these tips. I want to give you some things to think about, chew on, and give you some ideas for how you can enhance your practice and really get those results you're looking for. So the first thing to think about is immersion. The idea of immersion, if you are not in the country where you're trying to learn the language and you're struggling to find opportunities to interact with the language, media can be extremely practical. And so you can get really crazy with how you want to do this. Do you want to listen to a podcast? Great. Go do it and do it in the language that you're learning. Are you interested in a particular topic? Look for that. If you're more interested, we're going to find vocab from that you're going to really use in your real life. So it becomes a much more practical type of application and exercise. So fantastic. If you like music, listen to music in that particular language. If you can find series on Netflix, there's a ton in a bunch of different languages. And if you're looking for suggestions, Google is another resource for that as well. So as much as you can immerse yourself, whether it's in tiny doses of a television program, news, going online and looking at forums, talking with people and having conversations, if it's on a Facebook thread, or if you want to go onto some of the smaller communities. There are also large language learning communities that tend to be quite international, so if you want to interact with people that are native speakers, you can do that. If you'd like to find other speakers because you're feeling a little intimidated, other speakers that are learning, you can also do that. These are all options, but definitely get out there and make the most of all these resources, these free resources that are out there that can help you. Now, when we talk about using media, how exactly do you do that? And why? So there are a couple of things you should be aware. When I'm talking about learning Spanish, there are a lot of different accents, a lot of different words that are used. So the variance between what you're going to hear with groups and what you're going to hear, for example, a group that's from Puerto Rico singing versus a group that's from Panama singing, it's going to be different. And so you'll have different words, you'll have a different accent, and you'll have to account for that. So one suggestion would be stay consistent in the country that you want to speak in and travel in. So if you don't have a preference, then that's fine. It opens the door up for you to learn from a lot of different sources. But if, for example, you're going to be moving to Costa Rica, a lot of my clients are these days, congratulations. If that is the case, then you want to look for resources that are spoken and made in Costa Rica so that you're making sure that what you're learning is going to be applicable to where you're going to be practicing it. So that's one thing to think about. Second, you definitely want to make sure that you turn your subtitles off and your captions on. What do I mean by this? So I should not see, if you're learning Spanish, you should have captions in Spanish and you should be reading in Spanish. You should not be listening in Spanish and then looking at a translation at the bottom of the screen in English. Couple of reasons why. Translations are not always that great. They're not always perfect, and so you could end up repeating something that's actually a lot more offensive than you're meaning it to be, and the translation just doesn't want done correctly. And also, you should be listening and improving your ear, and you're not going to be listening very well and improving that skill set if you're relying on just reading the entire time, versus if you're reading along and listening at the same time and it both is joined together in the same language and the same words, then it's kind of double time. You're reinforcing it with the visual learning, and you're also with the oratory or ear listening, learning, you're also reinforcing it then. So that really is very handy. It's kind of like a double time for your brain, and so you're learning a little bit faster for most people. Little note also, most people are visual learners, and so seeing and listening at the same time does have that impact for a lot of us. It makes it a lot easier to learn faster. So absolutely no subtitles, but yes on the captions. And then from that, I'd also say, start generating your vocabulary list. So if you hear something that you don't understand, make a little note of it and then look it up later. You can also pause as you go if you're having trouble listening to things. That's why I recommend those captions, because you can rewind and say, oh, geez, I don't understand that word. You go back, you listen to it again, and then that becomes part of your vocab list. On top of it, I would definitely say not just for vocabulary, but for expressions, and definitely for fluency in terms of picking up how the rhythm of Spanish goes, or any language. If you're listening to music, that actually can be very, very helpful. You can pick up on a lot of really colloquial phrases, a lot of different sounds that we incorporate into our speech that aren't just written into a textbook. Like you can hear in a lot of different It's an explanation used in Spanish you can hear in a lot of different sources. So for things like that, it's going to be really useful to get into music and get into some of the programs so you're listening to what actually you're going to hear, not just what the formal speech that's written in the textbook is. So get out there, have fun, turn your subtitles off, use your captions, and immerse yourself as many different things that you can listen to and interact with. Do it, and you will see those results. Have fun.